In three, two, one. Hey, everybody, it's Abraham DeWeese from Seattle Sports Union back once again on a Monday night with the SoCal Seahawk himself, Robert English. How you doing, Robert?
I am doing pretty good, Abe. How you doing, sir?
Doing much better after an epic win, one of the most exciting games I've seen. Let's say in a while. Let's say in a while, because that game against the Rams, where it came down to a missed field goal by Greg Zuerlein, it had my heart stopped, and it wasn't just that kick, Rob. It was the entire game. I can't. My heart can't survive too many of these.
Oh no, you'll. It's funny you say that because you're gonna hear in my post game podcast that I actually spoke to that. I said, listen, if you aren't a heart healthy individual, it's probably bad for your health to be a Seattle Seahawk fan because they're going to put you through it every single week. And if you're not just generally cardiovascularly fit, you run the risk of not making out of these games.
You guys heard it from Rob himself. Get out there, walk around Green Lake a couple times, and stop eating those fried eggs. Because this is not the season for you.
Absolutely not.
Hey man, so obviously the Seahawks won 30-29. We all know this, and it's been great to take a couple days to reflect on this. I wrote up a couple articles on seattlesportsunion.com for all you guys out there. Check those out. They're pretty good. And I got a list of things that impressed me, interested me, and maybe even concerned me. Now I want to run them by you. Mr. SoCal Seahawk, what'd you think of that Tyler Lockett catch?
Oh my gosh. So it's funny when you ask Pete Carroll, he keeps holding strong, saying that he didn't think that Russell was throwing that ball away. But not only did he think Russell was throwing that ball away, I thought Russell was throwing that ball away. You thought Russell was throwing that ball away. And all 68.7 thousand people in that stadium thought Russell was throwing that ball away. I couldn't believe the catch. As a matter of fact, if I'm being totally honest, I don't think I even actually saw the catch, because when I saw Russell scramble to his left and just toss that ball up, I knew for such certainty that it was a throwaway. I kind of started to take my eyes off the screen, and then I heard the uproar from the crowd. I looked up again and saw Tyler Lockett laying on the ground, and who was it? Was it Luke Wilson or I think it was Luke Wilson jumping up and down because he caught the ball, and I was like, what? There's no way that actually happened. Like, we're going to go to the replay and see that, he either didn't hold on to it or didn't get his feet in. And no, he's made an amazing catch. I mean, wow. Unbelievable.
I agree with you. I thought that throw was an overthrow to Luke Wilson. And I thought to myself, good job, Russell Wilson. He was covered. That's Luke Wilson, obviously. No need to force that in there. Just take the next play. And holy cow, there was a touchdown. I was one of the many who did not see that coming, did not see it happen. Had to have 4 or 5 replays for me to be convinced, yes, that was a touchdown.
Right. Yeah, beautiful play.
I was taking a look at some of the plays that Dak Prescott has made, some of the plays that Patrick Mahomes has made in his career. And that throw is more pinpoint than anything that those two, at least in the highlight reels I was watching, that those two have done.
You certainly can't beat it. You might be able to look through forget about Dak Prescott or Patrick Mahomes. You could look through the
annals of history.
You took the words out of my mouth. The annals of NFL history, video footage. You may not find a better throw and catch. You might find one just as good, but I don't know about better. Patrick Mahomes has made in his short time as a starting quarterback in this league, has made made a career out of making amazing throws. But he kind of throws those balls that are off angle. He throws it right while he's running left and through a weird gap behind him. It's strange how he can fit the ball into certain spaces. But I don't know, the best Patrick Mahomes throw, I don't know if it beats out that throw in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah. Hey man, so we're taking a look at a quarterback in Russell Wilson, who is now in his eighth year. Is that right? Seventh,
I
eighth
believe,
year?
yes, it's eighth year.
Eighth year. And he is starting to explode as far as the press, as far as the sports media. His profile has risen up. It's shot up into the stratosphere. What are your thoughts on all these Johnny come latelys finally realizing Russell Wilson is actually a really good player?
Yeah, Johnny come lately is spot on. We've known it. We've known it for a very long time. It's so I feel like it's a long time coming. It's about time. I think this is, at this point, this is Russell Wilson literally leading the league. 5 weeks into the season, he is number one in multiple statistical categories. I mean, he's number one in passer percentage, completion percentage, excuse me. He's number one in quarterback rating. He's number one in touchdown passes. He's up there in yards. I don't think I don't remember exactly where he's at in yards.
Number three in total passing yards.
3 in yards, right? And he's 14 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. I mean, He is the definition of accurate, definition of precise. That is Russell Wilson. You simply can't ignore Russell Wilson right now. Now, if he's thrown 2 or 3 picks, let's just say he's thrown 3 picks at this point, they're probably not talking about him the same way they're talking about him now, because he's literally Russell Wilson's quarterback character right now is impeccable, bottom line. And that's what it's taken to get him to actually to the forefront of these so-called experts, on these shows and on these forums. They're finally going to say, you got the Bradys and everybody else, they can have a oops and a here and there, and they'll still be in the conversation. But Russell has had to be impeccable this year, and he's doing it, and they're finally recognizing.
What is it, though? For example, 2 years ago, Russell Wilson had a career year, led the NFL in touchdown passes, but there's always something. For example, that year, he didn't make the playoffs, therefore, you can have all those great yards, but you didn't make the playoffs. Before that, he was leading the league in passer rating. Well, that's all fine and good, but you had Marshawn Lynch and a boom. It's just fascinating. It's weird to me because I watched a dog of a Monday Night Football game tonight, where all they did is shove Baker Mayfield down my throat for 3 hours, and that guy hasn't done anything. What is it about Russell Wilson that up until now people have been refusing to accept? I can't put my finger on it.
He's short. The fact that a quarterback his size, and a quarterback of his, nature, can actually be the premier quarterback in the NFL. It goes against everything that we know. As far as the NFL of yesteryear, we love to talk about these quarterbacks that are of this new age style. Even back when the greats like Michael Vick. Michael Vick was super dynamic. He was almost untouchable, but he wasn't the quarterback that people wanted to see. He wasn't that orthodox quarterback that people wanted to see. Russell, I think, is the first one to really truly have the perfect mix of both of running ability and passing ability. And Russell, he runs around and does his thing, and he's not going to sit back there in the pocket. And not that he can't beat you from the pocket, but he just has this other ability. People want to call him a running quarterback. At first, they wanted to call him a game manager. Now he's a running quarterback. No, Russell Wilson is just a quarterback of just super ability is what he is.
So people have a template. This is what a quarterback looks like.
Right.
Okay. And he doesn't fit into that mold.
He doesn't fit into that mold. He's not tall. Really it's the height. It begins with the height. You know what I mean? That's the beginning of it.
Right.
And then he's not your orthodox sit in the pocket passer. He breaks the mold, and it's going to be a while before or maybe this is the turning point. This is the changing of the guard here, where people are going to accept this type of player as that what can now be the poster child, of what a quarterback can be. And then you got all these teams now that are drafting players much like the Russell Wilsons.
That's pretty fascinating. There's a couple other things too that he doesn't fall or snap into place or fall into line with other quarterbacks. Have you ever noticed he doesn't yell at his teammates?
I have never seen Russell Wilson yell at his teammates except for in celebration. Never,
Right.
never in frustration, only in celebration.
Do you think that's part of it though? Because if I think about guys like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, there's plenty of times that I've seen them chew out a receiver or an offensive lineman for not doing their job,
or a coach for that matter.
Yeah, or a coach, and that's called great leadership by the announcers.
Yeah, that's part of the it's part of the whole thing. If you let yourself be a little more sophomoric and let the people who talk the nonsense on the interwebs, you'll find the comments about Russell Wilson's kind of a dork or kind of lame or kind of this, kind of that, because he's just like too perfect, right? Like nobody in the world is as much of a golden boy as Russell Wilson seems to be, or the image that he portrays is just not really possible, right? No one chooses to accept it for what it is. And the reality is that's just Russell Wilson. He's a hard fighter. He's passionate about the game, but he does it, without losing that level of, what I call couth. You know what I mean? He does it all. He does it all, but he does it in a rather reserved fashion. And people aren't used to seeing that.
What is this finickiness in people though? What is this hypocrisy in people where they want an athlete to keep their mouth shut? They want them to say their prayers, eat their Cheerios, drink milk, and not cause problems. But then when you get one that's like Russell Wilson, oh, this guy's a goody two shoes. Does he think he's better than us? That's weird to me, Rob.
It's quite weird, and really it goes even deeper than that. I mean, Nick, and then I won't go as deep as I could go here, but this is, you as you said, you get a guy like Russell Wilson who is that, he's a goody two shoes. We want somebody with passion, somebody with fire. But then you get Richard Sherman out there who yells and does that, the whole Richard Sherman thing that happened, and now he's way over the top, too much, to this, to that. So there's no pleasing people when you're talking about people at large. There is no pleasing anyone. So I love the fact that we've got a system in Seattle where these players just do what they do. They do them. And Pete does a very good job of keeping it leashed in and keeping it under in control, but let these players be their own people, and it fosters a good environment, and it's working for the team.
So let's talk about system. The Seahawks had a 4-touchdown game from Russell Wilson, but they also ran it 40 plus times. Just because Russell Wilson's having a career year, and in the last couple of years, this has become his team, they're not going to waver from this ground and pound offense, are they?
It appears not. Pete Carroll is and Mr. Brian Schottenheimer are hard on the run. We're going to run the football, and even before Schottenheimer got there, we're going to run the ball. That's what we do. We run the ball to open up the pass, which is kind of 180 out of what how a lot of other teams do it. At least in today's NFL. The ball's in the air a lot now. But no, Seattle's going to run the football. We're going to hit you in the mouth as best we can, and it doesn't always work out, But yeah, Russell Wilson is out there. The thing is that's why Russell, you have to admit that he's so precise and just so dialed in, because he's throwing 4 touchdowns. He leads the league in touchdown passes and completion percentage, and he's doing it on he's doing this on minimal throws, minimal attempts, right? He's not out there throwing the ball 45, 50 times.
Yeah. He averages 31 attempts per game.
Right. So, I mean, the guy is out there for every opportunity he gets, he makes it count,
Oh yeah, definitely. And I got a question about about those attempts. What kind of strain is that on a receiving core? You're taking a look at a receiving core that has a second-year tight end, Will Disley, first-year ex-receiver in Metcalf. They're not getting a chance to have a barrage of throws thrown at them so that they can get better. No, they have to. They have to be good, and they have to be good right now. That's a tough position to put them in, isn't it?
I think so. I think that's why, and that's another testament to Russell Wilson. I'd say that the state of the Seattle Seahawks wide receiving core as it's been for a long time now. No one, if you ask most people, they'll say, "Oh, but Seattle has no receivers." Seattle's never had receivers, right? Even the Super Bowl Seattle Seahawks never had receivers. How long did it take for them to accept Doug Baldwin as a premier receiver? It wasn't until he was almost done with his career before they finally started calling him, the Doug Baldwin that he was,
Right.
But yeah, no, these receivers, they're not going to get a lot of targets because we're not going to throw the ball a lot. But again, we do a good job of making them count. Russell gets back there and finds time and finds an open receiver. And luckily we've got guys that catch the football. And we've got a guy in DK Metcalf who has, I think the first bad play I've seen so far from him was that drop on the 2-point conversion on Thursday.
Right.
And that was contested. But it did hit him in his hands. I would like to see him hold on to that one. But it was a contested play. These guys are out there. They know what role they play on this roster. And they're poised to make it count every single time their number's called.
Well, let me go back to that. Let's go to the conversation about the Seahawks have never had receivers, because in fact they did, and we all know this as Seahawks fans. Right. Look at Golden Tate as your template, right? He had 40, 50 catch seasons with the Seahawks, and then immediately with the Detroit Lions, 100 catch seasons. Baldwin would have a lot more catches and a lot more yards and a lot more touchdowns in an offense like that.
I think so. I think really, and I would never want to see this, but if Doug Baldwin had got to show off what he was able to do with Seattle, and then if he had ended up going someplace else, he could have been the premier receiver in someone else's offense. He was the premier receiver in our offense, but he could have. Imagine if Doug Baldwin was on the Patriots. I have to imagine that Tom Brady could find some use of a Doug Baldwin. You know what I mean? Golden Tate, another one. I felt that I was, kind of off base in how I took Golden Tate when he left. I was thinking, Golden Tate, yeah, he's not a premier guy. I like him. He's good at returning kicks, that yada, yada, yada. And then he went to Detroit and he was playing some serious football. And I was like, I think I misjudged how good Golden Tate was. And not that I didn't think he was good. I just didn't know he was going to be as good as he ended up being. And he had some good football in Detroit.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's switch topics here a little bit. Rob, how about those jerseys? Those baby puke, whatever green jerseys that they had.
So, well, listen, this is the, what do you call it? Unpopular opinion. I love our color rush jerseys, our uniforms. No. I am a fan 110%. And the reality of it is to this point, we're undefeated while wearing them. Now you remember,
is that right?
Absolutely. Now you remember, in the previous rendition of Seattle's uniforms, we had the lime green alternate that had the blue sleeves still. In our previous uniforms, we had that lime green. That was when we had Jim Mora for that 1 year. We wore those jerseys only once, and I think we got our butt
to Chicago.
Was it Chicago? Right.
Alonda Mare missed that field goal.
Right.
And Jim Mora called him an idiot kicker.
That's right. The details. That's right. So obviously, and Jim Mora was a very short-lived tenure in Seattle.
Don't insult those kickers. That's a guarantee to get fired.
especially when you blow the game from a coaching standpoint and then want to
True.
play in the, but yeah, no, so that uniform, that jersey was only worn once. We got our butts kicked, and we never wore again. But in this new uniform, the lime green, the color rush, we haven't lost yet. So if there's any type of superstition, that you like to climb on board, hey, this is it. We might want to change the color rush to our official uniform or something.
Maybe we do have to. I'll take wins over looking ugly. I mean, that's
absolutely, because hey, there's a saying, and if we have time, I'll touch on this, but there's a saying that there's no such thing as style points. So you got to win ugly, whether it's an ugly game or ugly uniform. Just win ugly.
Well, yeah. Think about that. How many Super Bowl wins do the Patriots have? 6? Does that sound right? 6?
At least. Mr. Brady has 6. Yep.
Can you think of any Super Bowls that they won or they won by more than 10 points?
Off the top of my head, no.
They've all been ugly. Even last year's, it was a knockdown, drag out, slug out, slugfest. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they haven't won any Super Bowls like the old 49ers where they just, win 53-10. They're always like that game against, the Seahawks, a last play here and there. The Falcons, where they came back, by 21 points in the fourth quarter.
Right. And
just barely won.
About winning ugly, if I can just real quick, this is giving me hope, and I hope that this hope is not false hope. There's a lot of hopes in that sentence. But this is what I remember about the Seahawk team that grew to such prominence just a few years ago, is that we were winning a lot of games ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There were some games that we didn't go out there and just beat up people. That there was a couple of those too, but there was games that Mr. the great Stephen Hauschka won quite a few games for us. Just on his leg alone. We won some games that we just squeezed by, but those wins, they counted the same as the ones where you win by 20. And we've done that this year now, all but one time, except for, with the exception of the Arizona game. We're playing hard, tough games, and we're coming out on top. And that's the kind of seasons, that's the kind of season that we had when we ended up, winning 11, 12, and 13 games. Yeah. And I have that feeling now about this. I'm like, man, if we can keep grinding out these wins, at some point or other, we're going to hit a stride, and we're probably going to put some points up on the board, and have some real cute games too,
If you throw out that 2016 season, I believe there's some sort of stat where Pete Carroll doesn't lose by more than 9 points. So even in losses, they're right in the game.
Right. Only on a very rare occasion do we really get throttled. We're always, and Pete says this, in his pressers and his post games and stuff, like he's always saying that we always want to, have a chance to win it in the end, and sometimes I feel like that kind of brings about this thing where you don't ever, really just grab somebody by the throat and drown them, but he says it, and it always is the case. You just want to always have an opportunity to win it in the end, and get the ball in Russell Wilson's hands and have an opportunity to win the game in the end. And that's always what we're doing, and typically speaking, we pull it off.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying about this being a running team. Mm-hmm. When you run the ball, you kind of shorten the length of the game, don't you? So you make the opportunities for the opponent very few and far between for them to score.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's part of the game plan. I think, you don't want to give them a bunch of chances, when you like to lean on your defense, like Seattle still does, and unfortunately our defense is not as great as the vaunted LOB was. But, when you lean on defense, you don't want to have your defense playing, any more number of series than it has to. So you want to play ball control on offense, hopefully have between 4.5 yards a carry. You want to be above 4 yards a carry,
Yeah.
And tire out that defense, the opposing defense. If you can achieve these things, it's really a recipe for success. But you've got to execute. It comes down to execution at that point.
Let's talk about that vaunted defense and what it isn't. We had a vaunted defensive backfield, but yet again, we gave up. Well, we didn't give up 400 yards. We gave up 396 to Jared Goff and the Rams. What's going on here? We gave up 400 to Andy Dalton. We're giving up quite a few to the Rams. What's the problem with this pass defense?
Well, I think, as we said, they're not the LOB. They're just not the LOB. We've given up a lot of yards to, good quarterbacks. And part of the issue is that we haven't quite got the pass rush going the way we want. I think once the mesh between Ziggy Ansah and Jadeveon Clowney, and we're going to get Jaron Reed back soon. I think once we get to full power, if you will, on the front line, I think we're going to generate some more pass rush, which is going to make the defensive backfield not have to cover so long. Because it really doesn't matter who you have back there. You could have a defensive backfield full of Richard Shermans and Cam Chancellors and Earl Thomases. If the quarterback has long enough in the pocket, he's going to find somebody.
Right.
So I think once we get our pass rush going a little better, I think we'll see some better play in the defensive backfield. And we've shown sparks. We've flashed. Shaquille Griffin is playing well. He seemed to be giving up one here or there. I think he got over the top one time on Thursday. And then he took the guy out of the game after he caught it. But it's you got to get some pass rush. No defensive backfield can do it all by themselves. And I think we'll get that going here pretty soon. And I think we'll see those pass numbers come down.
When do we get Jaron Reed back?
Jaron Reed comes back, I believe, the week after this coming week, if I'm not mistaken.
So for the 6th game? That makes sense. It was a 6-game suspension. Yeah, okay.
Right, so he back for the 7th game then.
So he won't be there for the Cleveland game.
I don't believe so, because that would be...
But he'll be there for the game after. Okay, great.
Correct.
Cool. A lot of talk from a bunch of talking heads about the Seahawks maybe getting a little bit lucky against the Rams, or what do you think about this criticism? Are they lucky or good?
Well, that's one of those questions that I don't know truly has an answer. Because if you want to, it depends on how you want to just focus on one little thing. If you want to focus on one little tiny thing, the most recent thing, the very most recent thing was that Greg Zuerlein, a guy who makes that kick 9 times out of 10, probably even 19 times out of 20. You know what I mean? He just booted it. And that never happens. If you had to replay that 10 times, he's gonna make it probably 10 times. So,
but the way I kind of look at that though is, well, okay, that's bad luck for the Rams, but what were they doing getting a delay of game penalty right before that, and that moved the ball back? I mean, that's got to screw with your kicker a little bit, right?
I mean, maybe, if you can say that, but then somebody can counter with, yeah, but they got 9 yards after that. So, so effectively, they got knocked back 5 yards, but then they got 9 on the very next play. What I like to go back to is, look, okay, you had an opportunity to win and you missed. Okay. Right. But if you had played better throughout the game at any other point in the game, you wouldn't have had to come down to a kick. You know what I mean? So you had 59 minutes and 49 seconds to do something. Right. Exactly. You had a game plan that was working for you early. You had a running back who looked like he was going to run roughside over us early in the game. You went away from that. There was many things. You gave up I want to say gave up, but because we kind of stole that touchdown in the corner to Tyler Lockett. But you left Chris Carson wide open in the end zone on that bobble catch. You know what I mean?
That's 4th and 2. Yeah.
Right, exactly. You let DK Metcalf break free on that deep post. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? All these things accumulate to what the situation was at the end, and you had your chance. Because I mean, we could say, oh well, we only just barely lost. If it wasn't for Greg the Leg being a great kicker, if you had any other kicker, you would have met. Who knows, right? But the two best teams, I say, and I say this, with a little bit of uncertainty now after watching tonight's game. We'll get to that, I'm sure, later. But the two best teams in the NFC West played each other and played a hard-fought game, and somebody's got to win, given the exception for the game ending in a tie. Someone has to win, and it ended up being the Seahawks this time.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the other team. The San Francisco 49ers just won tonight against the Cleveland Browns. They might still be scoring touchdowns, but at this moment, I have no idea. I believe it was 28-3 was the score, if I remember right.
I think they scored again.
Oh man, I'm going to be honest. After the first quarter, I kind of just had it on my laptop in a little corner of the screen as I did other stuff because it was not interesting to watch. And while I do kind of enjoy that Baker Mayfield got a little humble pie, let's just say, that 49er team looked pretty darn good. How do you evaluate them against the likes of the Rams and against the likes of the Seahawks?
Let me really find an answer for this. So first of all, I am so disappointed in tonight's game. You should have heard the mess I was talking to the 49er fans that I work with. I was like, look, you guys haven't beaten anybody yet. You're going to play the Browns. The Browns are showing some life. The Browns are a team that are ready to turn the corner. They're playing good football. You guys are going to lose because this is the first game that you played against a team that is any good. And you guys are going to take this loss, and Seattle will be the number one team in the division. Just get over yourself. Get over yourself, and you're 3-0. You know what I mean? You're going to take this loss, and you're going to recognize that you guys aren't. This was the fortunate benefactors of an easy first 3 games of the season.
Rob, are you gonna take that crow and put it on the grill tonight, or are you gonna put that in a pie? Because you're gonna have to eat it tomorrow.
I'm going to have to. Yeah, I'm honestly. You know what? I think I am getting sick.
Okay. You might have some sick days left.
Yeah. I might have to cash in one of those sick days because I don't even want to hear it. Baker Mayfield laid an egg. The whole entire Browns organization should just be. I don't even know what to say. The 49ers look like they were juggernauts tonight. And I have to say, and this is me probably just being a homer, but I'm going to go ahead and say that this is not the 49ers truly being great. This is just a reality that the Browns aren't as good as we hoped and thought they were. I'm going to say this.
Well, okay, I disagree. I have to take a look at that defensive line that has Eric Armstead, Dee Ford, Nick Bosa, and that other guy from University of Oregon. And it looks like the best defensive line in football to me. They eviscerated that Cleveland offensive line.
That they did. Look, you call me stubborn, but I'm not going to bless the 49ers with any type of praise. Because first of all, I'm me, I'm anti any NFC West team, outside the Seahawks. So, right. I'm not going to bless the Niners with any type of praise from me until they beat somebody formidable. And I don't think they have yet.
But if you take a look at their wins against the Steelers and the Bengals, they beat them by pretty hefty margins, whereas the Seahawks only beat them barely. That doesn't register?
I don't necessarily sign on for that because every game is different. Game plans are different. Right. Execution is different. Is better or worse in some games, in some areas. So I don't necessarily sign on for the notion that just because two teams beat like opponents differently, that suggests that the team who beat the other team better is the better team. I don't necessarily sign on for that.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's not college football. It's going to be that head-to-head competition in week 10, right? where we really see
Exactly.
what this is.
Exactly.
It's not a matter of are you higher rated in the AP poll and did you beat up a directional college by more than 5 touchdowns?
Right.
That kind of thing. Yeah. So I think I agree with that. I can land on that. I'm just looking at the old eyeball test, and I'm
Right.
telling you, that's probably the best defensive line in football.
Well, let's see what they do against Todd Gurley next week, because I think they play the Rams next week. So let's see what that great San Francisco 49 front four can do against a good running back. Even if, I mean, assuming that, they decide to give the guy the ball, you know,
Yeah,
but
McVay is starting to look like maybe people might have figured him out because or maybe he's his own worst enemy. Then again, Todd Gurley, think about this. Doesn't it seem like he's on a pitch count, so to speak? Maybe that
it
knee's
does.
not very healthy.
Yeah, it seems like they don't want to overwork him. They're kind of doing like they're doing like the San Antonio Spurs, like they're whole, not gonna go all hard all the time because it's a long season. Obviously, not
Right.
nearly as long as an NBA season, but they're like you said, giving him a snap count, and maybe want to keep him healthy for December. You know what I mean? When you really need a real strong running game when it gets kind of chilly outside and you got to you're gonna need a guy like Todd Gurley to be healthy. So I
Oh yeah.
wouldn't be at all surprised if that's the case.
Okay, I got one last question for you, but I wanna throw this out there to all of our listeners that Robert English, the SoCal Seahawk, has his own podcast. Would you care to give our listeners that link?
Absolutely. You can find my podcast called Short Yardage. Just log on to shortyardage.podbean.com. And you'll see the whole list of podcasts there. Every week you'll hear me doing my best windbaggery about the Seahawks. I'll take the RSS feed and add it to your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, and check out the articles there, and on Seattle Sports Union.
Also listen for him here on YouTube with me every Monday night. Well, Rob, I want to ask about the Seahawks in general. Here we are, just a little bit past the quarter-way mark, and do you feel like the Seahawks are meeting your expectation? Perhaps not as good as you thought, or maybe better than you thought.
Well, I can't say that I can't say that I thought that we would be 4-1. I think if I try to remember back to what I was, how you pick the wins and the losses when you're looking at the schedule before the season starts. I think I thought that the Pittsburgh game might have been an issue, and I thought that the Rams game could potentially. The Saints game could potentially be an issue. We actually ended up losing that one, but we really should have won. I think we are, in hindsight, it makes sense. But what I thought going in, I was thinking probably 3-2. To be realistic, I thought 3-2 was not an overshot. But at 4-1 and looking at it now knowing the answer, it makes perfect sense.
I feel the same way with you. I thought there were 2 losses. I thought they'd be at 3-2 with their 2 losses being to the Saints and to the Rams. But you know what? I'm happy because I don't feel like the Rams are that so far ahead of us that we would struggle with them when we go back down there to LA. I feel like we can take it to them in their house.
Absolutely. I mean, even last season, as good as the Rams were, they didn't beat us up. Both the games we played against the Rams came down to a last drive.
Yeah.
And the Rams win 12 games last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they aren't, no matter how good the Rams people think the Rams are, the Rams think they are. They're not that much better than Seattle. At least they weren't last year. And just going based on the evidence, they are we're 1 point, at least 1 point better than them this year so far. and we'll see what happens moving forward. I'm looking forward so much to that December game down here in Los Angeles. I'll actually be at that game.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm hoping I walk out of there, feeling as tall as I am when I walk in.
Oh, you got to take some pictures and post that online, man.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Hey. So actually, I got one more question for you. Having watched the Cleveland Browns, they are our next opponent. They are the Seahawks' next opponent. Any last thoughts as to what you think is going to happen in that game?
Oh, I have to imagine that you take the formula that the 49ers used and just copycat it. I think that the Browns, based on what I saw today from even guys like Odell Beckham, they look like a defeated team. And what are they, 2-3 now? So.
Yeah.
So I think they're a defeated team. I think they have no faith in what they're doing as a philosophy, as a team philosophy, and they look undermotivated. What's the strong the defensive end or defensive the lineman over there, Myles Garrett. Yes, late in that game, I saw the running back from San Francisco. He was kind of rough wrestling with a guy trying to take him down, and Myles Garrett was coming around in the corner, and because he was already wrapped up, I literally saw like Garrett kind of just jog up to him, and then just kind of put his hands around him and kind of help throw him to the ground. But I mean, he didn't tackle him. Like right. There was no motor. There was no motor, and this was Myles. I'm like, that's Myles Garrett. Like he literally did not attack the ball carrier. He kind of just trotted up to him as if like, what's the point? We're down 25 points. There's no coming back in this game. What am I gonna run myself into the ground for? Basically, that's what I saw. And I think that's what's going on with the Browns. I see the Browns. I don't like to use the word tank, but I see the Browns on a slippery slope, and I see it going downhill for the Browns from this point moving forward.
Yeah, I think the game on Sunday is going to be that linchpin. Do the Browns respond to getting punched in the face and come back, and give us a hard time, or is this the end for Freddie Kitchens and his control over this team? It always looked like a team that kind of, the two games that I've watched, it looks like a team that's read its press clippings and doesn't realize you have to get to work if you want to win in this league.
Yeah, you still have to go out there and do it. Regardless of what anybody says, how good they think you're going to be, you still have to go out there and execute. And that, you're right. It seems like they've gotten high on themselves and forgot that they still have to go out there and play football.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to see you next Monday here on YouTube. And again, check out Rob English's podcast, the SoCal Seahawk, on Podbean. Or I'm sorry, it's called Short Yardage. My bad, Robert.
Short Yardage with the SoCal Seahawk.
There we go. And check out our great articles at www.seattlesportsunion.com and check us out on Twitter at SeattleSportsU. Have a great day, everybody.